perspective, they view channels at the account level, the retail, U.S., Canada level, et cetera, and then all level. And so when marketing and when sales makes a commitment, they're making a commitment at those levels. That if all my accounts are going to achieve the targets, and then the regions are going to achieve the targets, and then globally, worldwide is going to achieve the targets. They're on the brand side, more the marketing side, they deal with more the subcategory, category, brand. In this case, there's adult versus youth products, in which case that's the way they view the world. When they're accountable, their accountability is to those levels, those dimensions, right? And obviously, the supply chain's accountable more from the SKU level, right? Because that's the way we make it. We make it by SKU. So we have to be accountable by SKU. We have a lot more detail than the others, right? Okay, so that's the manufacturing accountability. When you look at a retailer, they deal in the world a little bit differently, right? They're basically, they have different kinds of people who have different functions. And so when they are accountable in commitments, essentially store operation is really committing at what's called the department level and the store levels. That these stores are going to hit the targets, these departments in the stores are going to hit the targets. That's what we're going to be accountable for. We're going to hit those numbers that we think we're going to hit. When you look at the merchandisers and buyers, they tend to deal in items and categories. My category is going to make the number. My item is going to make the number. And then when you look at the divisional general manager, the presidents, they're really dealing at what's called the chain level or the channel level. So my stores are going to make this much sales with this much cost. Or my website is going to make this much sales, this much cost. Or if I have a sales force, they're going to make the cost. So basically, it's a different level of accountability. And at the top, there's the general manager, the CFO, and the COO, who are really making divisional and chain-wide kinds of decisions at the retail level. So here's the way they have to look at the world. They have 4 sets of planning going on, right? If you look at the upper left-hand corner, they have planning at the chain level. There are people doing planning at the whole chain, store chain level, and they have to plan by chain, by item. They don't care necessarily at the store level. When you look at the lower left, there's store-level plans. There's actually, what we're going to put on each shelf, and then we're going to roll that up into areas of the store, and they're going to generate that much revenue. So there are people doing what's called space planning, planning inside the store, and they're planning certain revenue to be generated in those stores. And when you roll that up, the item and store and locations in the store, they have to roll up to something that makes sense, right? If you look at the lower right, there's store-level plans, which is by store, by department, and class. There are people who are planning on that basis, on the stores and department. And then when you look at finance, they have a concept in retail called open to buy, which is what the buyer can buy to. In other words, how much can I spend? So they have a buyer, and those buyers usually responsible for items. And the trick in retail is to match up all those plans. So you see, you got different synchronization of all those plans. You got 4 planning units, and you have to synchronize the plans so they make sense, right? So that's a little bit different in a retailer. Okay. Now here's where the hierarchy comes in, and this is actually, I think, the most important piece to get accountability and commitment. And it's what I call translating the plans into the language I understand. Okay? So, an example to use is, if you have your marketing people speaking in Italian, and you have your salespeople speaking in Spanish, and you have your supply chain people speaking in English, they're not going to be able to come to commitment and consensus. You have to translate for them, right? So when you look at the planning hierarchy, it's really taking the forecast of the plans and rolling and aggregating it up in a view that I'm comfortable with as a decision maker. So I have three different pyramids here, right? I went to the pyramids yesterday, by the way. They're very, very interesting. But these look a little bit worse, but pyramids look nice. Okay. So on the left-hand side, I have what's called the demand view. In other words, there's views for demand-side people, commercial people. Their views, if you look at the left-hand side, the sales view has to be, tell me what the plan is in terms of accounts. And don't tell me in units. I don't want to hear about units. I want to know dollars. What is that plan telling me that I have to sell into that account by dollars? Then I want to roll that up into regions. What's my region going to do in terms of dollars? Not units, dollars. and then from a company level. So it has to, the plans have to roll up to that level for the sales view. The other part of that pyramid is the marketing view. So when I'm a marketing person, I'm a brand manager. Tell me what the plan means from what my brand is going to sell, what my margins and what my margins might be. Many times the marketing people do deal in units. A brand manager might deal in units and dollars so that they can understand profitability. And so when the marketing view is you have to take the plan and the forecast again, roll it up, and make it look by brands, by product groups, and by company level. So those are the way that you're going to get accountability, because that's the way the marketing and sales people understand it, right? That's their language. When you take a look at the supply side view, which is our view, most of your views, if you take a look at the logistics view, we tend to deal in units and cases. We don't tend to deal in revenues. We tend to, because we have to either store it somewhere or put it somewhere, so it's usually moving it around, and so it's cases and units. And so when we look at things, we want to know what we're going to have to ship to different places. So give me the plan and let me understand where we're going to have to ship things to. Tell me what's going to come from each warehouse, how much inventory I might have to carry in that warehouse. And then tell me from a company level what's going to happen. So essentially, there's a different view. It's all in units, and it's in terms of the supply infrastructure. When you look at the manufacturing piece, the manufacturing plant wants to know, what does it mean to my production lines? How much capacity do I need from that production line for that plan? So I need to roll that up to the production line, then I have to roll it up to the plant, and then I have to roll it up nationally. And usually, again, the manufacturing guys are dealing in units. We don't tend to deal in dollars, okay? So that's the view from the supply side. And then the financial side is the last one, and they tend to deal with dollars. Everything is dollars for them, right? Everything is money. And so when you look at, they have two sides to this. One is, if you look at it on the left-hand side, it's really budgetary units. In other words, tell me from a budgetary unit perspective what this plan means from revenues and margins, because I want to see if it makes sense relative to my financial plans. So you have to project it in a way that I understand relative to my financial plans. The other way is the time dimension. Tell me what it means for the quarter. Tell me what it means for the year. Tell me what it means for the weeks, all right? So I need to understand this particular plan, what it means from both a revenue and margin perspective as to what it does. Now, if you do this hierarchical planning thing, which I believe is the hardest part of the whole process, is taking the plans and rolling them in the way you'd like to see them, then you could start to get accountability.